Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our 11:30 session this morning. Glad to see so many familiar and new faces in the room. For those of you that I have not met, my name is Joe Painter, Senior Implementation Consultant on our professional services team, helping clients migrate from legacy systems onto Advancement RM. Quick housekeeping notes here, plenty of snacks in the back. Feel free to help yourself, just don't ruin your lunch. Number two, we are recording here, which just want everyone to be aware of that. And we'll provide those links afterwards. And thirdly, let's get started. I'm eagerly excited to hear from our outstanding partners and hosts for this session, Apsona and the Wisconsin Foundation and Alumni Association, and all the great things that they're doing with Apsona. So I'll let them introduce themselves. Justin, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Joe. So Joe and I were on stage 2 years ago, had a very similar experience. And for now, I'm actually really excited to present on a customer that is sharing their success and everything they led in the implementation. So I'm trying to see the screen, which is difficult with my head as shiny as it is. So I'm going to simply just introduce the session, and then I'm going to hand it off to these fabulous people. One thing that I think for me demarcated the level of engagement and leadership with this kind of an experience was the caliber of leadership that initially started the organization, the conversation. We had team members at Apsona, team members at WFAA across the board that were sort of resourcing and saying, hey, this is the critical way to sort of help create success in this difficult, time-bound, and sort of very complex and complicated scenario. I was impressed along the way by all of the parties involved, but I will note as a leader, this is the level of engagement that it requires sort of the kind of intentional investment to sort of make this a success. I think all parties involved had a critical stake in it, but that was for me the defining moment of this experience. I'm Justin. I get to serve as president of Apsona. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves because you're fully baked adults and you can do so.
I'm gonna stand because
Sure.
I'm so short, nobody can see me. I'm Lori Gardner, solution engineer at Apsona. I've been at Apsona for a little under a year, but been working in Apsona with Apsona for 7-ish years, I think. I have spent most of my career in higher ed, and I'm even in an Affinaquest, a couple of different Affinaquest orgs. I was actually here 2 years ago as a client, so I've literally been in your shoes. At Apsona, I have had the privilege and pleasure to work with Michael and Megan and their whole team at WFAA on this project that was a pretty complex requirements for their gift receipts, but that is what they're going to tell you a little bit more about. So I will let you guys introduce yourselves.
All right, so I'm Michael O'Brien from the WFA side of things. Your UW Foundation legal names. That's what you're going to see in the little. Oh no, we switched it. Awesome.
Oh, it's on the last. It's on the last.
It's on the last. Okay. If you see a bunch of different Wisconsin-based names, it's all us. It's all Badgers. That's us. I've been with the Wisconsin Foundation Alumni Association slightly longer than it's been called that. In their 11 years. Not so much of the Salesforce side of things. I've known what Salesforce is for 2.5 or 3. So I joined the team, and that happens to be right around when we started that Salesforce journey. So you'll hear a bit of that story at the beginning. Pass it off to Megan.
I'm Megan Garson. I've been with the foundation now for almost 9 years. Started in a different organization, also known as Sin. So I have 17 years combined nonprofit experience, which is both a benefit and a curse at times. But I'm currently now leading as the senior quality assurance manager for the gift services team. So I get to participate in a lot of the receiving processes and then also troll the system daily and make sure that the team is doing what they should be doing and how they should be doing it. But it's challenging. This is us.
All right, looking through, awesome. So I'm going to be the first one to talk about any of this. We went with the crawl, walk, run analogy. We actually started offhand with a triple jump analogy that I mentioned offhand and immediately hated because we did not move that quickly. Before I get deep into it though, I'm going to say we have some other people from our organization here. who were also very helpful and supportive, and I asked them not to come to make me nervous, but they did anyway. So I'm gonna call them out by name. So Marianne is from our leadership team. She's very supportive. She's who I was asking 10 minutes ago to confirm my timelines on this first section. And we have Berkeley in the back. Wave, Berkeley. Megan, Berkeley, and I were the ones who spent all day, every day on this receipting project. We didn't even know you would be here until like 2 weeks ago. So it was gonna be just us presenting, and he got out of being in the front of the room. So, crawl, walk, run. We're gonna start before we even know how to crawl. We started our journey to transition to Salesforce in February of 2021. I see Marianne nodding, so I remembered it properly. I joined the team shortly after that. We were previously on Blackbaud CRM. It was doing a great job for us. We had it for about a decade. The problem was we had customized it so much that it was a house of cards. We couldn't take upgrades anymore. So it was time to switch to something that we can maintain in the long term. We started working with Huron, wonderful partners. I'm sure a lot of you. Hands up if you've worked with Huron. Hands up if you know Caitlin. Her name's gonna come a couple of times. They were excellent partners to us. They really helped us through absolutely everything. You all know how the implementation partners can be super helpful. What we found though is there are kind of a lot of things you have to work on. And we're talking about receipts today. Receipts was a priority, but there were a lot of other things also a priority. So we had to put those in an order, and that meant receipts had to wait a little bit. So we were confident that we had the tools available to make receipts work. In our previous system, a lot of things were outsourced, and you had like help from a mail house assembling and document generation. That was something that we were still open to. So we knew we had a backup plan. If we couldn't figure things out, we were confident that something would work in the Salesforce and Affinaquest combination. So in the background of all this, and this is a bit of a spoiler, we're in an Apsona session. Hands up if you are using Apsona currently. Ooh, not a few. That means a lot of you are just considering Apsona, and maybe you should keep an eye out. So this is gonna be one big advertisement.
Hands up again.
And hands up if you have your receipts mostly figured out. Okay. We figured, since there's a smart batch session going on at the same time, the only people who show up here who are in the thick of it and really need to know specifically about receipts, so you're in the right place. I want you to know we feel your pain, we know the weight of all that, and you can do it. We figured it out. That means you can too. So in the background of all of our leading up to go live, we went live after 21 months in well, technically September 27th of 2023 was our go live date. And at that point, we had no real receipting set up. We knew that we had plans. We knew we had to address it at some point, but we didn't have a working system at go live date. I'm gonna pass it off to Megan to tell the joys of that time period.
So we technically went dark in our old CRM at the end of July. Or at the end of August, processed nothing then until the 27th, and then didn't technically get receipts out the door until the middle of December.
Sorry, I said that like I'm shocked that
And, like, it hurts, it really does, but it had to happen. While working with Caitlin, basically from like the second week after going live through the middle of December was daily. We customized our receiving process with her and her team based off of what we were doing in our old CRM, thinking we knew enough because it worked. So it has to work, and they're converting everything from that CRM to our new CRM, so it will continue to work. It did, but it was painful. When we did finally get everything up and running, it was 2 weeks straight of me and my manager issuing receipts every day to get 4 months of receipts caught up. It was helpful that they knew Apsona, but we did not. So they were customizing it for us, and when they then left, we were on our own. And we thought, okay, we're adults, we figured out the CRM, we can do this, we now have Apsona, it's working, everything is great, we can customize it. But it didn't work that well. So then we started walking on our own, basically. As I said, Apsona was our tool that we were using. Huron was no longer working with us, and literally 3 days later, something broke in our receiving process. Leadership had to be pulled. They're like, we can figure this out a little bit. I tried multiple different ways. It sort of worked some of the time, sort of didn't work all of the time.
And Megan, let me ask you a question. All this time when you hadn't been receiving and now that something's broke, how many gifts are coming in that you need to be receiving?
We were issuing like 400 receipts a day,
Okay. So
and
just
we
a
were
few.
missing at least 60 every day that I could tell we were missing. But I also didn't know my data well enough to know what I was not missing when I thought I was missing it. Real facts came out later about numbers, and it was shocking, and I still have pain about that. But it worked. So like, I was taking notes of all the things that I was having to do manually, physically every day on all my receipts that I was processing. The organization was basically allowing me to do this work for a minimum of 2 hours every day, and some days it took me 6 to issue receipts. There were things wrong with our address block. There were things wrong with the phone numbers and names that we were using. There were things wrong with name formats. There were things wrong with page formats. It was not a top university type of a receipt that we were issuing. And it was all I could do at that point. So I was in a weird place. Mary Ann then got looped in, and we were like, we need to fix this. So it became a top priority at that point. All of those notes that I was taking for that 6 months period basically was being compiled into a report of sorts for my manager to then bring to leadership and say, these are the things that are wrong. This is what we can do. This is what we are doing. This is what we don't know. And all the while I was still trying to build my own knowledge of our new system to better then tell a future team how and what we needed on these receipts so that we can make them be what they should be. We had met the minimum standards, but that was about it. And
Then our leadership got together. We knew receipts were a priority for a long time, but now we actually had the time and resources to address that. You know, little details, people, time, actually knowing what you're doing. So they assembled what, this was meant to be a compliment, but I'm still like, was it? One of our leadership members says, so we assembled our A team. Now that's a very positive thing to say, saying like, we're the experts, that's great. During that meeting is when I Googled what Apsona was. So that was my level of expertise at the moment, just to give you an idea. And also a bit of encouragement. That's how far I came in about 6 months. You can certainly do better than that. So this is what we're calling the running phase. Started by assembling the team. Like I said earlier, that team was Megan, myself, and Berkeley in the back. Berkeley was our project manager, keeping us on track, knowing what we're supposed to be working on first. Megan is our expert on gift services and gift processing, and I was pulled in as the Salesforce administrator so that when Megan tells me what we need, I figure out how to build it. And that meant that we had to figure out how Apsona worked. Now, it was at this time that I learned we had actually had Apsona since go live, but we had it for reporting, and we never really considered it as our document generation tool, because in that time period of like October to December of our launch year, we had another tool that we intended to use for document generation, and we had like the receiving object out of Affinaquest. We felt set. But after we learned more about Salesforce, more about Affinaquest, more about how our data would look in these new systems that we were still learning, we're like, we are a lot more complicated than we thought we were gonna be, and we need something a lot more flexible. And that's when this turns into an advertisement, because these people and their product are absolutely fantastic. And we agreed to come do this with them because I cannot say enough good things about how Apsona works and how their people support. So I started off by fighting with the person who gave me the compliment of PA team by saying, hey, I'd really like some time to learn what this thing is that I'm supposed to be an expert on.
That you just Googled.
So that I just Googled during this meeting. So I'm gonna have some slides takeaways at the end. So spoiler on that. One of them is take the time to learn your tools, learn your data, learn your system, know those things. I'm not gonna say inside and out, but know them well enough to know what you actually need out of them. If we had tried doing receipts, well, we did. We tried doing receipts right after go live, and we thought we had a solution, but it was working for what we knew at the time. And now that we've matured more, we know more about our system. We knew it wasn't actually going to work long term. That's why we had to turn this into a massive project. Lasted from June until October, which means those 4 months is how long it took us to do these receipts. So keep that in mind. Receipting is a major project, especially if it's super complex for you. You're gonna need to set aside time to do this. And first part of that is making sure your focus team, you will want a focus team, has the time and support to focus on receiving. If I had to work on anything else at the time, I might have lost my mind more than I could. So I got my 2 weeks. I spent those 2 weeks basically looking through, there is a massive library of written documentation and YouTube videos. There are videos I watched probably 6 times, picking up 1 or 2 tidbits each time, new tidbits each time I watch them. But Apsona has a lot of self-learning resources out there. Take advantage of those. If you're not using Apsona yet, look at those and see if it seems like the kind of tool that you might want to try. If not for receiving stuff, I know you're all interested in receiving, but not for receiving, for reporting. It's really useful. We love it for its flexibility. You know, Salesforce out-of-box reports, they're pretty limited in how far you can reach. There's that 3 objects thing. None of that in Apsona, which comes in really handy when you have as complex for receiving things we have. Things like we have our events. We want to receive those. Well, that meant we had to go from like event guest to a custom object to QPQ to inventory to transaction to gift. And what was that, like 6, 7 objects? And Salesforce reports don't play nice with that. So Affinaquest is where we went to there. After we did some self-learning, we went on to a little more assisted learning. I think if the time zones work out, Apsona office hours might be right now. It could be an hour off, but my Outlook calendar said it was now. Yeah. So every Tuesday and Thursday, they have office hours. Go to those 10 minutes at a time. You can ask questions, get feedback immediately, work out your problems in front of Apsona experts and in front of other people who will also be watching. Strongly recommend watching. Even if you're just thinking about doing receipts, go to office hours, watch those. Even if they're not talking about your question, you'll see what's ahead of you. And I think that's a major thing of why we're doing this today is not to say that we have the answers for you, ask them for the answers. But to say these are the pitfalls you might run into. This is how you avoid them, or at least make the fall maybe not as deep. And just give you an idea of what's ahead of you on this road. So Apsona stepped up in a massive way. They also offered to give us our enablement sessions. Enablement sessions are standard for new clients with Apsona. We use ours on our Huron contact who is building the reports for us. 6 months later, they were like, we pity you. Here are some more enablement sessions. So very kind. We were able to work out some more time with them. We worked way too hard for the next couple of months, attending office hours whenever we could, until we felt like we were on our feet, ready to run on our own. And we built out entirely new reporting templates. We built out new merge actions. We got Word templates. I learned more about Word, Microsoft Word in those 2 months than I have in all of my life till now. Learned how to use and abuse those logics and things to make it work for our system. And we launched our new receipt templates in October, almost to the day, a year from when we like started on Apsona work. It was kind of weird. So end of October, we launched our new receipt templates, and proud to say that it worked so well. We were caught up on all the broken receipt types in like 3 days. So we had like membership broke in February of that year. We had events receipts break in April, and these are receipt types we hadn't issued up until now during that calendar year. And then 3 days after launch, we were good. And then Friday before we left for this conference, we ran our annual consolidated receipts, and it just works.
Amazing.
Which isn't that great when something just works. So we can move on to the next slide. We've already launched. You can see a little bit of what you can expect. Pairing up merge actions is on the left. The Word documents, it's basically planning out your mapping. Treat your Word doc as just another thing you have to map to. Apsona makes it really easy. You add things to the report, that gets added to the merge action. You look at the merge action, you add those to the Word template. It's intuitive, it makes sense. Building can get complicated if your needs are complicated. I know ours were, yours probably will be too, but you can learn how to do it. Let's skip to the next, and we can see at the end of this, we learned a lot. So we got some key takeaways. We split these slides up. There are 2 takeaway slides. If you are not using Apsona yet, and or if you are in this room and somehow know you will never use Apsona, I welcome anyway, I guess. Focus on these. Just in general, for a project like this is what we figure we needed to focus on. Learn your systems. Don't try to customize your process until you know how it works, how it's intended to work, how your system is built.
What your gifts are.
What your gifts
What
are.
you want to do with your gifts, what you will and will not accept, how complicated those will be in and of themselves. Are you going to take a stock gift with QPQ? You have to receive that.
Wouldn't recommend
How
it,
do
but
you
we
do
did
that?
it.
Yeah, can you guys talk a little bit more about just, I think that's one of the reasons Apsona worked for your scenarios, was that you had such different needs for different types of gifts. Like there's a lot of logic, there are a lot of different varieties of your receipt.
We have to work with our mail house because we send out 3 different categories of receipts depending on location of where they're going. So there's domestic, international, and Canadian. Within all of that, we then built out the receipt template logic to accommodate dues, outright gift, QPQ, IRA, stock, IRA of stock, stock with QPQ
And QPQ IRA.
and QPQ IRA.
But
All
those were
of
all
which-
handled in, they weren't all separate receipts.
No, they're all one receipt, all compiled together. A donor can give any one of these smatterings of gifts, and it will be one receipt. We have consolidated from our old process to the new process to allow for that, to save paper. We've print duplex if we need to. We did not before. Our mail house can accommodate that for us as well.
We receive just anything they haven't been received for yet. So if someone makes 3 different donations over a weekend, that's all on one receipt when we issue it on Monday.
We built it off of transaction versus gift pledge, so it bundles so much easier. Make sure you've met with your legal team to know what language you have to have on your receipts versus what you think is pretty to have on your receipts. We spent way too much time talking about page numbers when we didn't need to.
And don't make the awful joke, oh, Canada.
Oh,
The
Canada.
receipts for Canada and the requirements they have.
Are so fun. But you do need to pay attention to that. We had and still have really complex gifts coming in, and it's easier if you don't, obviously, for receiving, but you can still build it if you do.
Is there anyone here who has only simple gifts coming in all the time?
I got one.
Yeah. My old job we only had it. Very easy. We had stocks and checks. That was it. It was perfect.
May I ask, are you using the advancement RM receipt record as a
Yes.
part of this merge as well, coupled with those transactions?
So we use the receiving utility to get the initial numbers. We then use a few different list views and basic reports. We built an audit report out of Apsona that we used prior to running the process in Apsona. We enabled both review step and a submit step in our receiving process. We can look at them before they're pulled out as a zip file, which is then shared to our mail house. We have a lot.
We have a lot, and I'll put a caveat on that question. So yes, but we do
Yeah.
use the receiving process because that's what worked for us for our split our receipts and their daily receipts, their annual consolidated. For our daily receipts, receiving tool does exactly what we wanted. For annual consolidated, we decided that that wasn't quite what we wanted to look for. We just split it into different processes. You can build to have our daily receipts check whether there's a receipt record to confirm that that transaction needs to be receipted. Our ACR process doesn't. You can pick and choose. Don't feel like you are boxed into what came in the out-of-box product. If there's something that doesn't quite work, leave your process as whatever the process should be, and then adjust your reports accordingly. Don't let the tail wag the dog.
There's, yeah, there's whispers now of them lying. Maybe Marianne doesn't know this. E-receipts, it's possible. You'd have to do a little bit more customization of the Apsona process to enable this, to make sure that the receiving sent date still gets marked and the logging actions, so on and so forth. But it's possible, but it's also then the conversation that you have to have with your org to make sure that, is it just receipts? Is it all communications? What type of communication? How do you want to log and track all of that? Where you store them? Are you storing them? There's layers.
I guess so.
That one.
Yeah. Yes. Make sure you talk to your communications team to know what language you think your president or whoever is going to put on there. Do you have fonts? Do you have colors? All of that.
50/50C, color of red. Every time it's a little bit off, our marketing team catches it.
Caitlin's not here, but we had a little hash mark on the first page of every receipt for almost a year that we didn't know how to get rid of. Because we didn't know where the documents were in Apsona to be able to go delete the hash mark.
Learn your systems. Really, really learn your systems.
How much?
I think we have about 5 minutes left. If we have any questions, we want to put it up.
Skip to the last slide. We'll just leave up, skip our quotes. Sorry, back to the other. Let's leave it on this one. So specifically about working with Apsona, these are some of our takeaways. Most important of which is you can do this. We went from zero knowledge and Googling what the tool was to fixing it in like 5 months.
This is also
You guys-
not to say don't not trust Huron. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
they were
extremely
great,
helpful.
loved them completely, but we didn't know what we needed to know.
And then let's go to the contact slide and start taking questions.
Yeah.
Can't answer everything about how to fix your process, but we can help you along the way.
Yeah.
Let's start you and back.
How do you handle online gifts if they just make their gift online? Do they get their tax receipt through the email confirmation and then it's done? Or do you also mail them?
Are they getting e-confirmation upon making a gift? Then depending on if they are making this gift as a part of a recurring gift or a pledge, they'll either get a daily receipt once the gift has been processed, or they'll be part of the annual consolidated.
And it's the same thing with, we have like membership portals and we have online registrations for events and they'll follow the same process. Immediate confirmation, we follow up with a mailed receipt, at least for now.
Yeah.
Okay, so the email confirmation does not replace. the receipt, like the mailed receipt.
Correct. It's just a, yeah, we got it. And then we'll send a tax document.
I saw it on your merge, you have embedded tables for your receipts.
Too many of them. Actually, exactly the right amount of them.
Do you find that, two questions, do you find that the embedded tables sometimes throw off, formatting in the Word document?
Ah,
And, how do you address customization around gifts for different purposes
yes,
within the
so,
letters?
so up until the end, yes, absolutely. They were messing with the formatting. Now, no, we got the tables figured out. Go to office hours. There's actually a lot of documentation that they have about working in Word with this, learning group headers for tables and how to merge and insert merge fields and things like that. So there are a lot of resources out there, or just, regular YouTube for how to use Microsoft Word. But for the parts that Apsona uses specifically, there's Apsona documentation. Some of it, you get a little bit creative, like a group header needs a first row that can't have any merge fields in it. So in our document, that's just in white text. And made it font size 1.
Order.
What about like personalization for a receipt? Is there any personalization on purpose?
On purpose, we do.
But you can.
Well,
You can create conditional templates where.
I mean,
You helped me
it'd be
build them.
fun.
You actually helped me build them.
Yeah,
in-
so-
In our process, so.
so there's personalization level, like I think, no, the message just starts with thank you, but like, it's the same document that has the address block on it. So that's not a separate, we don't print on an envelope, print onto this and it has a windowed envelope. So you can
don't
merge
issue
in.
it by school or college or anything like that. We used to have, cost related receipts versus general receipts. We do technically have a dues and membership receipt template versus an everything else template, just because of the.
Mentioned earlier, like before it was WFAA. So
Mhm.
Wisconsin Alumni Association has a president, and the UW Foundation half of the merger has a president, CEO. And the membership dues are the Alumni Association side of things, so that has one header and template and everything. Thank you, signs Sarah Shute, president of that. And the foundation side of things has some more generic, like, thank you for your gifts, and it's signed by the CEO of UWF. But yeah, you can split that out and customize pretty much whatever you want.
Yeah, if you want athletic gifts on a receipt, do it. If you want hospital gifts on a receipt, like,
We use acknowledgement types to segment. And we have about 25 different receipt templates that are uploaded to our merge field right now.
If you're using Apsona, look at the merge actions, if you do conditions on which template you use based on field values and stuff.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's great. We ended up getting away from that because of our country differences. We need a different process anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fantastic.
I think we have time for one more quick question before we wrap up.
Do you include a number of shares and ticker symbol on
Yes.
your receipts? And how do you get it to
Excellent
calculate
question.
correctly, like if it crosses pledge
You need
schedules?
to talk to someone else who built our special to get it to work, because SmartMath 2.0 does not, as we all know. It works. You can make it work.
It required custom fields on the transaction
Yeah.
level, and mapping to that in our gift receipts. Basically, our receipts, we receive based on transaction rather than gift. So we've brought the stock number down to the transaction level.
So we
realized
have
still
ours
up
on
there.
the transaction level, but when it creates two
Mhm.
pledge, like paying into the next one, it'll duplicate.
We built in logic for that as well, so if it's one pledge, for one type of stock towards the same designation, it's good.
Yeah, so we had like if the stock number matches and the stock, so the designation name matches and it's the same date, then it combines into one line. So we dealt with the
That was
duplication for a while.
that was like day 3 note I took of like, I can't manipulate this, like, I don't want to touch money on a receipt, and that was one that I was,
I mean, when you were manually
yeah.
editing.
No, there might be a lot of other questions. Feel free to grab them after the session or later in the day or tomorrow. Thank you, both Apsona and